Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG sealed and singles will be 5% off. Known for their awesome sleeves and deck boxes, did you know that Dragon Shield also has an app? It's true, they've got MTG Card Manager. Using your phone, you can scan your collection in any language, and get real-time information on the language and price of the card. You can find MTG Card Manager out now in any applicable app store. I'm also excited to share that Original Magic Art and Phil Foglio have teamed up to release 36 brand new tokens. There's tons of cool art, with also options for backers to vote on what they want, not to mention a beautiful Metal Monarch token. So what are you waiting for? Hop over to Kickstarter and use my referral link to let them know I sent you, and book your token set today. Today's patron shoutout goes to Wes Allen. Thanks Wes for supporting me through Patreon. Hey gang, and welcome back. In today's game, Seb, Maxim, and Marie have rejoined me, with Seb playing their Eivor deck. They keep 2 forests, mountain, plains, Brotherhood Regalia, Sithis Harvest Hand, and Mother of Ruins. Maxim has borrowed my Bello deck to test it out more, keeping forest, mountain, Fanatic of Ronus, cultivate, outpost siege, Sunbird's Invocation, and a bootlegger's stash. Marie has built the Goose Mother, keeping Shimmer Dragon, Fanatic of Ronus, Nature's Lore, Arcane Signet, 2 forests, and a doubling season. Marie has been kind enough to loan me her Bria deck, and my opener has Talrand Sky Summoner, Lotus Petal, Mountain, Underworld Breach, Sulphur Falls, Dockside Extortionist, and Island. Seb wins the die roll, and they start us off. They draw and play a Plains, tapping it for a white to cast Mother of Ruins. Maxim just plays a forest. Marie also plays a forest and passes to me. I draw, play an island, and pass. Seb's got a forest for turn, and they cast Sithis and pass to Max. Max plays a mountain and pays 2 for Fanatic of Ronus. He passes to Marie after that. Marie's got a forest return, and then casts her own Fanatic of Ronus, and passes. I'm kind of left in the dust with nothing, just playing a Sulphur Falls, and passing. Seb's got a forest return, and then they cast a Brotherhood Regalia. Going to combat, Seb swings Sithis at me for 1, which is a bit of a tongue twister, and they pass after that. Maxim draws, plays a forest, and then pays 4 for an outpost siege. As it comes in, he names cons and passes. Marie draws and continues to ramp, playing an Arcane Signet and then casting Nature's Lore for a breeding pool, and she has it come in untapped. This has her taking 2, and she then taps the untapped breeding pool to cast Many Partings, going to find an island and playing it for turn. She passes to me after that. I've got a mountain and cast Jorian. Seb draws, playing Windswept Heath, and they then cast the Nessian Wanderer. Going to combat, Seb then swings Sithis at Max, who takes the hit, and they pass after that. Maxim exiles his top card, and then draws for turn. He then casts Bello, which turns his Outpost Siege into a 4/4, and this allows him to tap the Fanatic for 4 green. He uses 2 of it for a Felwar Stone, and the rest is then used to help cast Cultivate. He gets the mountain into play and a forest to hand, and he plays the forest for turn. Going to combat, he swings the Outpost Siege creature at Marie, and she takes the hit for 4, with Maxim drawing a card. He passes after that. Marie draws, plays Trail of Crumbs, and then casts Troyan and passes to me. I draw for turn and play a mountain. I then cast Talrand. I follow that up with a Lotus Petal, drawing a card off Jorian. I then pass turn. During my end step, Seb casts Path to Exile and targets their own Nessian Wanderer. It gets exiled, and they go and find a Plains before moving to their turn. Seb draws and has a mountain for turn, which gives them enough mana to cast Eivor. Going to combat, since Eivor has haste, Seb then activates the Mother of Ruins to give Eivor pro green, and swings it at Max. Max can't block, and takes the full 7, with Seb getting to reveal their top 7 cards. They keep a mountain, and the Akroan War off the trigger. With the Akroan War coming in, Seb then steals Bello, and once they have control of the raccoon, move the Regalia onto it, and pass. Max exiles a card to the Outpost trigger and draws for turn. He plays a Forest from exile, and then casts Beast Within, blowing up the Akroan War and getting Bello back. He follows up with Sunbird's Invocation, and then casts Lightning Greaves. Unfortunately, he whiffs off the Invocation trigger. Max then moves the Greaves onto Bello, and he moves to combat. He swings the Sunbird's Invocation at Seb, and they take the hit for 4, with Max drawing a card. With nothing else, he passes. Marie draws and plays a Tireless Provisioner, and then plays a Forest for turn and makes a treasure token. She then uses the rest of her mana to help cast Doubling Season and passes to me. I draw and play an island. I then cast Bria. Once my commander's out, I follow up with a Dragon Raised Chandler, drawing a card from Jorien and passing turn. Seb draws and moves the Regalia to Eivor. They then cast Battle for Bredegard, making a human token and drawing a card and gaining a life from Sithis. Seb then plays a Forest for turn and goes to combat. They swing Eivor at me for 7 and they get a full trigger. They keep a Savannah off of it, but unfortunately whiff on Sagas. In their post-combat main phase, Seb then casts Intangible Virtue, drawing a card and gaining a life off Sithis again, and passing to Max. Maxim exiles his card to the Outpost and draws for turn. He plays a Mountain, and then casts Bootlegger's Stash, which, with the Sunbird's Invocation, has him getting a Hedron Archive off of it. He then follows up with a Wilderness Reclamation, and then Essica's Chariot, the latter of which hits Collective Resistance. Max removes the Regalia with the Resistance, and then moves to combat. Max swings his Outpost Siege at me, the Invocation at Marie, and the rest go at Seb. Seb jumps one of them with their human tokens, while Marie and I take our 4. Max then gets to draw 4 cards from 4 enchantments and artifacts connecting thanks to Bello, and he gets to populate with a Chariot, making another cat token. On his end step, Max untaps his lands with the Wilderness Reclamation trigger, and then passes to Marie. Marie draws and casts Cultivate, going to find a basic for the field and plays the forest she gets. This makes her a total of 4 treasure tokens with the Tireless Provisioner and Doubling Season, and she then casts Shimmer Dragon. Marie then cashes in all of her treasures to help cast the Goose Mother and puts 10 into the X, which makes her 10 food tokens thanks to Doubling Season doubling the 5. Marie then taps her food, drawing 4 to the Shimmer Dragon. Marie then passes, and during her end step, I cast Brainstorm. This gets me a Drake token from Talrand, and a Surveil 1 trigger from the Dragon Rage Chandler. I draw and play a Fabled Passage, cracking it to find an island. I then cast a Dockside Extortionist, which makes a whopping 22 treasure tokens. I use 4 of them to cast a Stormkiln Artist, which draws me a card from Jorien, and once that's done, I cast Varen. I follow him up with an Underworld Breach, and get to Surveil, putting Counterspell to my graveyard. With the Breach resolving, I then cast Brainstorm from my graveyard, and get 2 Surveil Twice triggers, and make 2 Drake tokens. Bria and Jorien also become unblockable with Bria's triggers, on top of the Prowess triggers, and I then resolve my Brainstorm. I then continue casting a Jeska's Will, making the rest of my eligible attackers unblockable, and getting more Surveil triggers, and more Drake triggers, and some treasure tokens, and I then add 7 red and exile my top 3. I then cast from exile the Blackblade Reforged, and then play a Storm Splitter. I then move to equip the Blackblade onto Bria, and then cast Jessica's Will from my graveyard again, getting all of those spellcasting triggers again doubled. I then exile my top 3 again, and add 7 more red mana. I then cast the Will again, exiling some cards from my graveyard to allow me to do it thanks to the Breach. I follow up with Kedis once that's done. We then move to combat, and between Bria killing one person with commander damage, plus dealing 21 to everyone else, not to mention my swarm of prowess storm splitters, I swing out and win the game. Game review time. This game was about 48 minutes and some odd seconds, and honestly about a good 10 minutes of that was that last turn with Bria. I mean, there are elements of me taking a while because A, I didn't know the deck, but B, every time I felt like I was casting Brainstorm or Jessica's Will, those 3 cards that I was seeing, either through exile or putting to hand, really fundamentally changed the lines of play that I wanted to do. Instead of going wide, all of a sudden things started to get really focused on going big when I hit Kedis and the Blackblade Reforged. And considering that Marie does not play blue by choice, this was a pretty spicy deck. She didn't want to make a storm deck in the traditional sense of like casting a bunch of spells and then a big X spell, but more in the sense of like using Storm Splitter to go super wide, which is a lot of fun. The Goose Mother was, Marie did exactly what she wanted to do, which was make a lot of food tokens. Unfortunately, despite all that really early ramp, there wasn't any kind of interaction on her side that allowed her to stop me, which I guess could be said about everyone else, except for Seb. Their Eivor deck had Path to Exile, which they had to use on their own creature to get a land drop, which is just, oh, that's rough. Eivor as a commander is pretty cool. It's kind of like Gishath, but for sagas and a land, so I kind of like that idea. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see very much. We only saw really the Akroan War and that Bredegard enchantment saga, so hopefully they'll be able to play it again and we'll be able to see a bit more of it. Max was super kind in testing out my Bello deck. I find oftentimes when I build something new, there just are not enough games for me to play, especially with the rotating amount of people coming in and out of the studio, to let me really get a fundamentally good idea of what the deck needs. I find that through playing it more, and especially through games getting posted on YouTube, people point out good ideas, they put out good lines of play, they put out, pretty much anything that I might have missed. And that's really helpful. Overall, I think he did a great job. I think the deck is just strong. It's got so much card draw built into it, and having indestructible and hasty creatures is just so difficult to deal with. I love it. I think I actually really want to lead into the heavier side of like not blocking with cards like Bedlam, which make it very difficult and don't really punish me, since most of the time the creatures on Bello's side of the board are enchantment and artifacts, which means they're not active on other people's turns. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.